Hello guys, welcome to this CSS tutorial. We are done with HTML, and this is module 2 for CSS. So I've created a CSS folder and I'll just be uploading it. Okay, so I already have an index.html file here and it's blank. I'll just be generating HTML code. Okay, so for the page title I can just give it CSS tutorial. Okay, and now in the HTML I didn't have a folder structure. Okay, I didn't create any folder for images, I didn't create any folder for assets, I didn't create any folder for of course we didn't have CSS then. So but in the CSS I want us to take things more organized, okay, in case we have multiple images, multiple pages and all that. So I'll be creating a folder. The first folder I'll be creating is pages. Okay, and I'll also be creating assets folder. This is where we can put our downloadable files like images. So inside the asset folder, make sure the arrow is pointing down. I would create an image folder. I'll say images. Okay, and I'll also create a CSS folder. CSS. Okay, so we have about 3 folders now, or 4 folders, and 1 folder inside another folder, which is the images folder. So we're going to be going into CSS. Okay, so unlike HTML that is that works with tags, okay, CSS works with properties. Okay, so we'll be going into that. So there are about 3 ways to create or to add CSS to your HTML. Okay, and we're going to be going into that, and we'll just be using about 1 for the tutorial, but I will show you guys the 3 ways to add your CSS into your HTML. Okay, so I'll just be creating a p tag, a paragraph tag, and I can call this anything. Okay, I can call this anything. I can just generate a lorem text. I made mention of how what lorem is just a junk text we can use to fill in spaces if we don't have any text in mind. So I'll open this on the live server. Okay, so you can see our index.html. So the first way to add add CSS into HTML is the inline styling. Okay, now the inline styling is adding an attribute known as style. Okay, and I can call this, I can add a background color. I can call this white. Okay, so in CSS this is known as properties. These are known as properties. Okay, so the first one before the colon is known as property name. The second one after the colon is known as property value. Okay, so try and know the difference, okay, between property name and property value. Okay, so that's the first thing. We can add another thing to check, let's say, the text, or to change the text color. We can say color, and we can call this, okay, let's make this black, because by default the background is black. I can call this white. Okay, I like to use the hexadecimal because that's like what most browsers support. So if we were to go back, we can see, okay, so we have had a background color of black and a text color of white. Okay, so we can add other attributes, we can add other properties. Property name like height. We can say height of 100 pixels, and we can say width of 100%. Okay, so we can see I've added a height and a width. Okay, we can also make the width let's say 50% to put it to half of the screen. To make it half of the screen. Okay, so in the previous video I made mention of ways we can measure width and height in HTML or in general CSS or in web development. So we can use pixels, which is what I've used here, or we can use a percentage. Okay, this is what I've used here. So HTML has some of these attributes, okay, by default, okay, but CSS is more elaborate. Okay, CSS in the introduction video is like what you can use to style the website formally. So this is one way to add CSS to your HTML. Another way to add is the using internal styling. Now internal styling requires you to add a style tag. You just put a style tag by default. Okay, so everything has been erased because I've removed the internal inline styling. So this is known as internal styling. Okay, okay, this is known as internal styling. Okay, this is inline styling, the one I was using before. Okay, so take note in case I didn't clarify that. So this is known as internal styling. Now the internal styling works a little bit differently from the inline styling. So unlike inline styling where we don't need to select anything, the internal styling we need to select the tag or the class name. Okay, so we'll be going into class name very soon. Okay, so class name and ID name, okay, or class and ID is very soon. So we need to select what tag do we want to select. We want to select the P tag, so we can say P, and we put something they call curly bracelet, and you press enter. Okay, so if I want to give it a background color, we can use any color of our choice, but if I want to give it a background color, let's say brown, I can change it to hexadecimal just by hovering over it. We can go back and we can see background color of brown, and I wanted to give it a text color. I'll just say color of white. I can say white, and I'll hover over it and change it to hexadecimal. Okay, and you can see it has changed. So we can give it the same thing we gave the other ones. We can add the weight to 50%. Okay, and we can add a height to, let's say, 100 pixels. Okay, so we can see that. So we have the leverage to add as much features as we want. So this is for the internal styling. Okay, now the last one, which is what we're going to be using for our CSS tutorial, and which is what is mostly used in industry standard, is known as the external styling. Now this requires us to have an external style sheet. Okay, so I'll just be creating an external style sheet here. So if I click on the folder, how we know the folder is open is that this arrow is going to be showing downwards. Okay, so it's open now and it is closed. It's open now and it is closed. It's open now and it is closed. So I go into the CSS and I create a CSS file. I can just call it style.css. So creating a CSS file, we use the extension .css. Unlike HTML, we use .html. Okay, the CSS file we use what .css. Okay, and I can simply just copy this. So there's not much difference between internal styling and external styling. Just like the external styling is you have it in an external style sheet. So I'll cut this. Okay, and I can paste this. So if we go back, it's not showing. Okay, I intentionally skip something. Now we need to link the external style sheet to our HTML. We can do that by going to the head tag and typing a tag known as link. Okay, and the relationship between this link tag and the hyper reference, the href tag, is that this is a style sheet. Okay, that's why it's showing rel here, and this is also the hyper reference. So for the folder structure, we would have to tell the browser or tell the computer that we'll have to go into a particular folder. So this dot and slash indicates we need to go into the same parent folder, that is this CSS. Okay, and inside the CSS we need to go to this other CSS here. Okay, so I can say CSS and slash, and we're going to style.css. Okay, so we have successfully linked the style.css here to our HTML file, okay, or HTML document or HTML code. So if we go back, it's now effective. So we can add as much features as we want for that element. Okay, so we can take some other thing, like we want to add the text weight, or want to increase the text weight. We can say font weight, we can say bold. Okay, so we can see that. All right, so this simply makes the weight of your text to be bold. We can make it lighter, we can make it thinner, we can make it 100. Okay, so we can make it 500, we can make it lighter. You can see that. So I will just leave it at bold. I think bold is so I'll leave it at bold. Okay, so I would not just want us to be building a random website. I want us to be building something as we go on in this tutorial. So I would just like us to be creating a tech blog, let's say a 4 pages tech blog. Okay, so we'll be creating the pages later on, but we'll be putting content in the pages later on. But let me just put some other pages here. I can say about.html. I can say contact.html. I can say let me just say blog.html. okay, so these are the pages that we'll be working on later. So altogether we would have 4 pages in our website. Okay, we would have 4 pages. So I will just close on this. As we go on in the tutorial, we'll be adding several content to the pages. Okay, so I'll create a header here, and I'll put a div, and I'll call this div, I'll call it site title. Okay, site title. So I'll explain what class is&id is shortly after now. I'll just say tech, or let me give it a unique name. I can say LVG tech blog. There's the name of my brand, LVG Technologies. So LVG tech blog, and we'll just create something around it. Okay, let me just use LVG tech. Okay, and I'll create something else. I can call this site menu. So I can say site menu items. Okay, and I can create a UL here. I can give this UL and a class also. I can call this site menu main. Okay, I'll call this li, and I'll call this an a, and in this a I can say home. Okay, this is for the index, and I can just copy this instead of typing all of them at the same time. Okay, so look at how many pages we have here. We have about, we have a blog, I will have contacts. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so I've added a class here. I know I've not talked about class. Okay, I've added a class here. So what class simply does is that it's a way to identify a group of items. Okay, so let me just explain here. Let me create a p tag and I give it another lorem. Let's say lorem 30, and I create another p tag and I give it another lorem, and I say lorem 30. Now lorem is just a junk text, just in case you are joining us. I've been using it in the previous videos, and it's just a way to generate random text you want to fill in certain spaces. So I can now, what classes, imagine you're in a class in school, in university, in college, and a class is just a way to group items, okay, together, or group elements together. So take example, you might be in a class in year 1, year 2, year 3, or year 4. Okay, so you might have 50 people in your class. Okay, so the class is being identified by the name in HTML. So take example, I wanted to style just these two items without styling this one. I can give both of them a class. Okay, the same class. So I can say class, I'll say sample, and I'll give it the exact same name, class, and I'll say sample. So I've been able to group these two items together, okay, without interfering with this. So instead of going to style a p, so we can see the issue is that if we go back now, the attributes of this is going to affect these two. Okay, so let's go back and see. We can see that, well, if I wanted to style these two differently, I'll have to give this to the same class name while excluding this. Okay, so if I were to just let's say delete this, okay, I can give this a class name of what, sorry, sample. Okay, and I can say background color, I can say orange, I can say color, I can say white. So we'll just change it to hexadecimal. I love putting it in hexadecimal because it's more browser friendly. Okay, so if I go back now, I would see this other two has been styled while this has been excluded. So instead of just extracting the p tag, you don't want to style, because if you want to style only this, the p tag is going to affect this also. So I've simply grouped this into two. So take example, I want to style this differently. Okay, I can now use an ID. Okay, so an ID is a unique identification. So an ID is only used once throughout your HTML code. Okay, so an ID cannot appear in two elements, so it has to be one. So if I just give this an ID of parent, and I go back and I style, okay, so class, sorry I didn't mention this, class is, to style a class is simply mean to put a dot before the class name, sample. So this is the class name, sample. Now to style an ID, you need to put an hash. Okay, shift and hash, and you say parent. Okay, so I can give it a background color of aqua. Okay, and a color which is a text color of let's just say blue. Okay, and then it's a word combination. Let's change it to hexadecimal, and this also to hexadecimal. Okay, so I go back and I see. So I've successfully made this very unique, while I've grouped this into a certain class. So this is a class, these two, these are classes or class, and this is an ID. Okay, so that's different between a class and ID. Going over again, a class can be used in more than one element to just group items and style items, while an ID cannot be used in one element, okay, or one tag, to make sure that it is very unique. Okay, so that's it. So you can add as much class as you want, even a million, but you need only just one ID, okay, in your HTML. Okay, so that's it. So we'll be building a tech blog like what I said, just the front end of the tech blog, and as we go on, we'll use maybe Flexbox to make this more responsive and make this more beautiful. So I'll be going back to our code, and that's it for ID and class selector. Okay, so another thing I want to teach you guys is how to add comment in CSS. So this was the way I taught you guys how to add comment in HTML. Okay, using the less than, exclamation, 2 hyphen, and this, or you can simply use control and / for PC. Okay, now in CSS you can't use that, it's not gonna work. Okay, so if I were to put it, you can see that has not worked. Okay, that's not worked. So in CSS is different. Okay, you can use / and use a star and use another star, sorry, and use another / okay, by this we have successfully added a comment. So I'll put here successfully added our first comment. Okay, and it also works in multi-line. Okay, so you can add as much comment as you want. Okay, so this is how. So in simple terms, you can just use forward control and / in PC to generate a comment. Okay, so that's it for the comment. And comment can be useful. I can say, okay, our header style starts here. Okay, I can say our header style ends here. So you can put the header style in here. Okay, so let me just style this header and we'll see. Copy. I'm styling it through the tag now. I'm not using a class or an ID. So I can say background color. I can give it black. I change it to hexadecimal just by hovering over it. And I can say color, which is a text color, and I can give it white. Okay. So if I go back, okay, so we can see effective change. Okay, and there's also something we can also do when we're starting our styling. There's a tag, or there's a way to style everything on the website. You can see star, and we can put the color bracelet. Now this styles everything on the website. So if I want to change the entire background of everything on the website, I can just simply put it a background color and I give it black. So everything is going to be automatically changed to black. You can see we can't see anything, but let me put it in a color that would be more reflective. Okay, this is like a light blue in hexadecimal. So I go back. Oh, we still can see. So let me use orange. Let me use this. Can see. Okay. Okay. So we can also change the color of the text of the entire website to black. Okay, so we would likely not use this okay, the color, background color, but we can use it for our font size and our font family, or to just generally reduce the margin and padding. Okay, so let's go back and check. Okay, so that's great. So we can use this to change the entire font family, okay, of a website. So I can say font family. Take example, I want to use Helvetica here. So you can see the font family is different. Okay, so why it's called font family is that most browsers don't support certain fonts. Okay, so these are the fonts that really look much alike. Okay, sans serif, Helvetica, and Arial, whatever you call it. They look very much alike. Okay, so they're in one family. Okay, so take example, if I wanted to use a font family of Times New Roman. Okay, now Times New Roman, Times and Serif, okay, they have very similar fonts. Okay, so if you notice also, there's a quotation around Times New Roman. Now if the font is more than one word, you need to keep a space. You need to surround it by either single quotation or double quotation. So you can see this produces an error and this is no longer relevant. Okay, so although you have VS Code to generate this for you, so you don't need to worry about that, but in case your code runs into an error in the future, you can as well identify this, okay, by adding either single or double. So I think it came by double or it came by single. I'll just change it to double and it will work just perfectly fine. Okay, so I'll change it back to Helvetica. I love it, it's quite unique. You can see there's a difference between what we had and this. Okay, so that's it for the font family. So you can use it individually on different elements, but I would just prefer we use it that way. So another thing that we can add, another feature of CSS, another property that we can add is another property known as font size. So to change the font size, so let me just create a div here. Oh, sorry, I create a div just immediately after the header. I create a div here and I gave it section, and just a section 1, and I put a h tag, h1 tag in it, and I can say welcome to LBG Tech. Okay, LBG Tech blog. Okay, so I can put this LBG Tech blog, and I extract this class. I give it some features. Paste, and I give it a height of let's say 400 pixels, and I give it a width of let's say 100%. Okay, now I go back, we can see that let me just give it a background color, which we have learned already. I can give it a background color of orange. Okay, and now I can change this font size, okay, to any font size of our choice. I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, and we can do that by just saying font size. Now you can see the default font size here. We can see extra small, you can see that. We can say extra large. You can see that. Or we can just simply use pixels. I love to use pixels, so let's just say I use 50 pixels. Oh, it's too much. let's say I use 30. Okay, it's too much. Let me say I use 25. Okay, so I use 25, and I can change the font size, okay, just by using this property name and property value. Okay, so there's the property name, let's not forget, and there's the property value. Okay, so that's it for the font size. I've talked about font weight also. Another thing, in CSS normally we can, in HTML we can just simply use the align, and we can align it to either the center or the left and all that. But in CSS we don't need to come to the attributes here and add anything. We can simply extract the class name, which is section 1, and we can use what we know as text align towards center. You can see that, or we can use text align to the right. Okay, so I'll just leave it at the center for the purpose of this center. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is how to use the text decoration. So under our welcome, we can put a p tag here, and we can give it a class of section 1.1. okay, just a simple class name. So I can say where you can get the best thick news. Okay, so I've just added it to under our welcome to LBG Tech blog. Okay, so I would let me get the class name, and I'll try to start it. So we can use the text decoration, to decorate the text. Now this is very similar to underline. This is very similar to formatting elements in HTML. Okay, where we have the U tag, I tag, del tag, and the rest. So we can use CSS to replicate every single formatting element. So this is just for underline text. Okay, so I can change it to something different. I can say line through, which is very similar to del text. Okay, del tags in CSS, in HTML. Okay, and we can use, just test around. In the cheat sheet also, the description, you'll see a comprehensive list of properties. Okay, so test it around. We can just use underline. Okay, I'll use underline. Okay, so that's it. So also we can try to add a font style. Okay, we can try to add a font style which is also quite similar to formatting text. Okay, so I can say font style, I can say italic, or I can put something different here. So I'll say italic. Okay, which is similar to I tags in HTML. So you can see our text has become italic, while also becoming underline. Okay, so that's it for the introductory part of HTML. CSS. We'll have a lot to discuss over the course of the next videos, but shortly before we end this video, I would like us to check on some more tags, or sorry, some more properties in CSS. And one of them I would like us to check is adding a text shadow. Okay, adding a text shadow. So we can go to some website and see that some texts have some colors behind them. Okay, so let me just check on this. Welcome to LVG blog, and say, so we can add a text shadow to text. I've not classed it, so I can say class, I can say heading. Okay, I can copy this and I can give it the heading section 1, so I can put it here, and let me put it here. Okay, so I can say text shadow. Now the first one, they have about 4 different properties when it comes to text shadow. Okay, now the first one is for the x coordinate. Okay, that's the text shadow for the horizontal part. Okay, the next one is for the y coordinate. That's the text shadow for the vertical part. Then the third one is for the blur, and the fourth one is for the color of the text, shadow. So in this case, I'll just use a black text shadow. So I can say for the horizontal part, I can say 5 pixels. Okay, I don't think it's going to come up. Okay, so for the vertical part, I can say 2 pixels. For the blur part, I can say 4 pixels, and for the color, I can say black. Okay, so this is for the text shadow. So we can now see our text. Maybe I'll just add a different color. I can say white. Okay, so we can see our text has a shadow now, so you can adjust the blur and everything to our preference. So this is for the X, which is for the horizontal part of the text. This is for the Y, which is for the vertical part of the text. This is for the blur, which is like the shade, of the text and all that. And last one, which is the color, which you have used white. So you can just mess around, adjust this to your preference, and see how it goes. So next thing I want to talk about is the text transform. Now the text transform gives us the ability to change a text, for example, into capital letters or uppercase, to change a text into lowercase, okay, or to capitalize the text. Okay, so let's just use an example for the text transform. So I go back and I check the class name, section 1.1, and I go to the whatever I put it, and I can say text transform. I can say, let me just change it to capitalize, so we can see each of these words have been capitalized. Okay, each of these words has been capitalized. Okay, so it's very, very important okay, we can also change it to an uppercase. Okay, so I've changed it to uppercase, and we can see it has been transformed originally from normal small letters into capital letters. Okay, so I'll just leave it at capitalize. So the other text transform you can check, inherit from the parent, initial, set, so you can change it to none. So I will leave it at capitalize. I think this meets what we want. So each word is now a capital letter, which is quite different from what we initially put in our HTML. You can see that apart from the opening word, where the rest are all small letters. Okay, so that's it. So another thing we can talk about is word spacing. I'll be ending the video here. When we come back in the next video, the part 2 of this video, I'll be talking about word spacing. Another tip I want to say is that before we build a website professionally, we try to plan how things would look in advance by having a UI UX design of let's say the website. So you can just say UI UX. Just for the purpose of this tutorial, I've kept everything quite simple. Or we can say UI of a website. So you can either get a UI designer to design this, or you can do it yourself through Figma. Okay, it's not so difficult. You can just download some UI websites templates. So this is an example of a UI of a website. So you can look at this and create some codes around this. So if I were to download this, I would just desktop. So this is just an example. Okay, so you can have this and possibly see how you can recreate this through HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React and all that, but I'm just using this to demonstrate the possibilities of CSS. So in the next video, or in the part 2 of CSS, we'll try to see how we can have our site more planned. Okay, see you in the next video.